I said, well, do you think I could have the Wednesday off? I know it's a matinee day. And he went, oh, of course you can have the day off. He said, I thought you were going to ask me to take my clothes off for the full Monty night.
Hello everyone, my name is David Hill and welcome to my brand new celebrity podcast Schmoozing, where I take a deep dive into the careers of some of my favourite people and my friends. Today's episode is brought to you by the fabulous team at 12A Studios, and sitting in the control room this afternoon is Jack Hallista. Hi Jack.
Hi David, how are you?
I'm very good. What sort of week have you had, Jack?
Well, I have been binging the groundbreaking series It's a Sin, which is very in keeping with today's theme because our guest is from the series It's a Sin. And I have never been so speechless in all my life. I think when the last episode aired, I just stared at the TV screen afterwards. It was just incredible.
It certainly is an emotional journey, that series, and groundbreaking in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely groundbreaking. And the cast is insane. I mean, they've got young talent, they've got the likes of Stephen Fry, they've got the amazing Keely Hawes, who I am actually now a little bit obsessed with. And I'm going to make it my 2021 goal to watch everything she's ever created or done. So if you're listening, Keely, I love you. I'm going to be a Keely Hawes expert because I'm going to watch everything.
Well, let's hope she tunes into that. Well, funnily enough, the theme is It's a Sin, but for me today, Jack, it's a gin.
Oh, and I can see that's a beautiful bottle over there. What are you pouring?
This is one of my favourites. So this is a Tomcat blueberry gin.
Not heard of that one.
Which I have mixed with a Folkeington's tonic, just, the normal premium tonic, and some crushed ice and some iced blueberries on top. It is absolutely delicious. It's Moorish. It's so good.
It sounds very grand. Much grander than how I imagine. Like, gin in my head is like mother's ruin, just go to the pantry and take out a bottle of gin. But you make it sound like a theatrical performance.
Well, I went to a dinner party last year, and this was served as the sort of pre-dinner drink. It was literally a Tomcat blueberry gin with tonic, and let's just say, Jack, that I didn't move on to any other drink. I just drank this all night very, very happily.
And am I going to get a little sip of gin this evening?
Probably not.
Oh. Now, before we get too carried away talking about gin, I must just say, if you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us, and above all, subscribe.
So, Jack, tease us with some information about today's guest.
Well, today's guest is the inspiration behind the phenomenal series It's a Sin. She's a West End superstar who's worked with the likes of Carol Channing. I mean, what a legend.
Wow.
I know. And she's a campaigner, an activist, and a serial fundraiser. It's the wonderful Jill Nalder.
Jill, thank you so much for agreeing to do episode 2 of my new podcast, Schmoozing. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm excited to be here.
We really appreciate it, and obviously you're living a very specific period in your life at the moment because of the hit TV series It's a Sin.
It's gone wild. I mean, really, I knew because Russell T Davies has written a fantastic series. I knew the script was fantastic, but the reception and the way that it's been received is mind-blowing, quite honestly.
Well, we are going to dive into that, of course. But before we do, I just wondered what it's like being an actress during this lockdown.
Oh, well, it's not good. Let's face it. Everything's dried up for us, for our whole community, really. People have done sterling work trying to do stuff online, trying to do play readings, trying to do shows, and socially distant shows have been happening. There was a big concert at the weekend that tried to happen, but overall, as a whole industry, we have been hammered, that's for sure.
I've only got you for an hour, so I don't want to waste any time. I want to jump straight into it, if that's okay with you. And at this point in the conversation, I should also say that this episode of Schmoozing will air on Monday, the 8th of March, but you and I are recording it this February as part of LGBTQ History Month. And in fact, we've just had National HIV Testing Week, which is so important, isn't it, Jill?
Absolutely. It's so important because it's a normal, treatable condition now. And so people don't need to be frightened as they were in the 80s, terrifying thought of getting that death sentence. It's not like that now. And so by getting tested, you can look after yourself, you can treat yourself, you can make sure that you're not passing it on to other people. And there is no reason. Everything is good about getting tested. And it's simple now. You don't have to wait weeks like in the 80s. You had to wait weeks initially for results. It's a very stressful time. No, you can find out so quickly now. So
yeah, absolutely. Go and get tested. And there's so many ways of doing it. You can get tested at home. Yeah. There are so many places you can go and get tested. And in fact, with the current medication, there are lots of people living with HIV, and this includes actually some of your fellow cast members, where the virus is undetectable.
Exactly. And so they can't spread it, they can't get ill, so they're just living a completely normal life. But if they didn't know that they were HIV, they could be spreading it, and they could be falling into getting maybe not the sort of AIDS defining diagnosis illness, but certainly some of the other problems, the health problems that lead up to that. So there's no good reason not to get tested.
No, absolutely. Before we dive in with the details around It's a Sin, I just wanted to put this whole It's a Sin series into context, and I just wanted to fire some of the stats at you and at our listeners, because and to give you them, they are incredible. So first of all, it's achieved 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Jill, it's broken several viewership records for Channel 4. The channel's streaming service, All 4, recorded its highest of monthly views ever in January 2021, nearly doubling the figure from the year previous, with a 91% increase. The 5-part series has already accumulated over 6.5 million views on All 4, becoming the service's biggest ever instant box set. It's now officially the most binged watched new series ever. It's a Sin's first episode also achieved the platform's biggest drama launch on record.
Oh my word. I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing, honestly. Russell himself is, wow, that it's amazing. And he's so used to sort of, getting success and a lot of viewers and everything like that. But even he's thinking, good grief, it's just phenomenal. His word is astonishing. That's what Russell always says. He always goes, it's astonishing.
It's it's kind of transcended beyond a TV show, hasn't it? It's a phenomenon.
Yeah, it's incredible. And who would have thought, just, when you look at our own lives, and I include friends and people that have gone through HIV, who would ever have thought that would have such an impact on people?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's incredible, it's astonishing, it's phenomenal, it's all of those superlatives. And I'm one of those people that I watched it as it went out live on Channel 4, and then of course I binge watched it after that, because I just had to see it. I watched it over, I think, 2 or 3 nights, and what an emotional roller coaster. Yes. And for me, as a 52-year-old gay man, it resonated so personally on so many levels.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I've had messages from people sort of in our age group, 50 and upwards, or 45 and upwards, who have memories were closer to the time. And then messages from very much younger people who just didn't know that that had happened. And they just, saying thank you to those boys for giving them a chance to have the life that they have now, which is a normal life, normal life expectancy. And so I've had so many messages like that, from people that are so surprised by it, and how they've cried and laughed, because you can't get a Russell Davies script without a laugh, because he's got such a fantastic sense of humour. I
mean, that's his brilliance, isn't it? The juxtaposition of the comedy against this incredible heartbreak at the same time. It's just genius. Brilliant. Would I be correct in saying that your personal story was the inspiration and some of the basis behind the series that Russell has written?
Well, you are right. I mean, I can't, it's some of his inspiration, because obviously the boys are his inspiration, the people that he knew, everything in there's his inspiration as well. But we have known each other since we were teenagers, and so he lived through that time with me, and not obviously in the Pink Palace all the time, but he lived through that time, knew our friends, mutual friends. He saw what was happening, and so it's part and parcel of his whole inspiration. But it's not just me.
How long have you known Russell?
No, how old am I now? Do I have to confess? I've known him for 35, 36 years.
Wow.
Yeah. We were children. We were very young. We were young. We were our county youth theatre, West Glamorgan Youth Theatre, which brought us all together. And it was a brilliant place. It was so much fun. Even then, right back in the 70s, the end of the 70s, it was camp. We had a laugh. We had, people felt that they could be themselves. Even younger, young boys there were able to, I think, start to come to terms with their sexuality and things like that, just in a more open environment. Amongst friends, it was.
And have you remained close friends throughout the years?
Russell and I, yes, we have. Yeah, we've remained. I mean, there's been times when we've, not spoken for months on end and things like that. I mean, he is seriously busy. But one night when I was doing Les Miserables, and it sticks in my mind because we had such a funny night, I came out, it was a hot night, and I was dressed as a peasant or a whore. I think I was dressed as a whore, and I went to the stage door just to get a breath of air, and by chance he passed me by in the street. He'd been doing some sort of interview, and we shrieked, and we planned to meet after the show, and at 5 o'clock in the morning we were still having a laugh. He came back to the flat, stayed the night, we laughed and laughed and laughed. So however long we have been apart, we get back together, and it's exactly the same.
I'm interested for you to, if you don't mind, describe what life was really like during that period for you, through your experience and from your own words, really, living through that 1980s, 1990s period when this, what I think is fair to say, this pandemic started.
Yes. So it was very intense, because it people had a diagnosis that you thought obviously they are going to die. That's a horrible thing to be carrying around. So you are carrying around that anxiety all the time as to what is going to eventually kill my friend. Because that is going to happen. There was no cure. There was no real treatment. There's some treatment. So there's some treatment for some of the infections you might get. But so there was always that sort of grieving in advance kind of thing that you're telling yourself that somebody hasn't even passed away, and you're still grieving, which is sort of position you get in the mindset. But also there was the secrecy, there was the stigma. So it's all adding together to make this sort of, I don't know. I mean, I think back now, and I'm not quite sure how we all dealt with it. Really, you can't imagine, because you just get on with it. It becomes the normal that you're living. So you kind of have those secrets, but it's what you do as a part of your day, you know, trying to help, just help. And also it's your life. You are living and working, and you know, these are the people that you're spending your time and your life with, and so it affects you, and you want to help. You just want to do what you can.
I'm right in saying, aren't I, that in very much the same way that your character in the TV series, played by the wonderful actress Lydia West, who plays Jill, one of the I suppose the themes of that narrative was that she starts just visiting strangers and people in hospital, because so many of these gay men, their families had deserted them. People didn't understand the virus. There was this incredible stigma attached to it. And you did that, didn't you, Jill? You actually went and started visiting people in hospitals.
Yes. In the very beginning, I did, when people had no visitors and where it was a real stigma. You could go to the hospital, one of the main AIDS centres in London, and all you did was you went and you volunteered, and you would take a cup of tea around, and you would sit with somebody who maybe had no visitors, or maybe, you know, was keeping it a complete secret, and you would just go around and take a cup of tea and you know, I don't know, just tea and cake round, and you could do that sort of thing. And so I did do that. I did it until, you know, somebody very close to me fell ill, and I thought then, okay, I need to, you know, put my priorities and take care of my very close friend at that point.
I was reading one of the interviews that you've done very recently with The Independent, where you talk about that experience, and you say in the interview it was not an exceptional thing to do. And I just wondered why you said that.
Well, I mean, I don't think, I can't see that anybody wouldn't do that for someone that they love at the time. And also, you know, you were part, there were other people out there wanting to help and wanting to be, you know, buddies. There was a whole buddy system that you could be. I don't know if that rings a bell with you at all, but you could go and help somebody who couldn't have visitors, or even was stuck in their house and was living quite segregated, a quite segregated life, and you could do shopping for them or make food, you know, all that kind of thing. So I wasn't the only person doing that, of course. I mean, that was linked to the hospitals, but it was very early on, and people were scared. I mean, people were scared of catching AIDS and didn't know how they caught it and all that kind of thing. But it became very obvious, I think, quite quickly to me, that you can't get this from touching. You know, it's whatever it is, it's not touching someone's hand that's going to give it to you. Otherwise, it would be everywhere. You know, like look at COVID. It's such a different thing. So it's obviously something else. It's not, you haven't got to be scared of that, which I didn't feel like so.
I suppose my only comment would be that you know, and it's very, very much in your character to answer the question the way you have. But I think you probably underestimate what an exceptional difference you probably made to some of those people that you were visiting, and you know, yes, to you that was quite natural and organic in a way, because you were living in and around the virus. Yes. But I'm sure it made an exceptional difference to people, Jill.
Well, you'd like to think that you know, that has helped. Then you know, that's a very nice thing to think that you've been able to do, because obviously people did really, really struggle, and people were so frightened of being discovered that they had AIDS, and you know, that word was synonymous with the gay plague and all the abuse that the gay community suffered at the time. So you know, it's nice to think if you have been able to help, that's something for sure.
I think personally one of the points or the themes of the show that is so important is it shines a light on the ignorance around the illness, as you've just alluded to. Yes. At the time, the way in which initially some of the medical profession looked on the illness. Yes. and the just the terrible stigma around it, you know, at the time. And I think that's been a very important part of the narrative of It's a Sin.
Yes, and that was absolutely true. I mean, there was a massive, horrible stigma. I mean, really, you know, and somebody was saying to me, you wouldn't, you know, with somebody with COVID, you have nothing but sympathy, you have nothing but care and sympathy. But for AIDS, at the time, there was the innocent victims and there was the people who were not innocent. They got it because they did something wrong, their lifestyle was wrong. They were the people that were being, you know, deserved to get it, was an attitude that was out there, as if you were not just equally unlucky that you'd fallen ill because you were a gay man, and obviously your lifestyle has led you to have that, and not only that, you're spreading it to other people, and you know, so they were blamed, and that's a horrible thing to carry with you while you're feeling really ill, and you can't get the help, and you've got a death sentence hanging over your head, and you can't tell your family.
It's horrendous, and you know, for me, one of the most heartbreaking elements as well was that how it split up couples. And you know, you've got the scenes in the show where you know, couples that had lived together all their adult lives were suddenly having to die separately, you know, with no communication. There was no mobile phones then, there was no social media, you know, all those communication things that we now live with that are normal to us, they were not there.
And at the time, so of course you just accept that because you know no different. So it is getting into a call box or trying to find out, you know, and if somebody was out of the country and they fell ill, like you see in It's a Sin, then that's terrible, trying to get through to another country to try and find out what's happened to your partner or to your friend. And, you know, you can't speak the language. If they're in hospital, you don't know where they are. And, you know, it's so, I mean, torturous experiences for people.
One of the things that I've said to people over the last few weeks about the series, and I just wondered whether you would agree with me, I've said that it has started a national conversation about AIDS and the HIV virus, and it's even filled a knowledge gap, in my opinion, with the wider society. Do you think that's correct?
I think it's absolutely correct. I do. I really think it's definitely filled a knowledge gap. It's definitely started conversations. But it's also, on top of that, it is now getting the sympathy and the caring that they didn't get at the time. People are sort of caring after the event. They didn't realise what people were going through, and I think it's got this, I guess, quite emotional, got this kind of outpouring of love and care for those people and what they went through, and I think they honestly wouldn't believe that. They would not believe how people so respecting them now and thinking about them in loving terms instead of thinking about them as spreading a disease and causing all these problems.
That's a wonderful and positive way of looking at it, and yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You really are. I know one of the key things with this whole part of your life and this story, and I think that's continued actually throughout your life, is that not only did you become a campaigner for this terrible disease, but you became very active as a fundraiser too, didn't you?
Yeah, that is one thing I did do full on. Not just me, again, a whole of the West End community. We set up the charity, we set up West End Cares, and myself and Jay Alexander and Anthony Lynn, he was a big instigator in it, and Sean Kerrison, Murray Lane. There was a whole bunch of us, a group of us. I was the first chairperson of the committee. I don't know why, maybe because I was the only girl, and so we started having some meetings on a Saturday morning before the matinee, and we approached Crusade, which was was a charity that had been set up to use the name West End Cares. They'd had it under a banner because of Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, and then it seriously took off in the West End Theatre because we were all very focused on trying to raise money to help with the cause, and we were just saying we just really want to get a cure, you know, and help people who were not having problems paying their bills, and there was a hardship fund. Anyway, so I'm digressing, but the whole West End community would come and put on cabarets. We did late night shows. We did sort of party nights, theme nights, little seasons at different theatres. People who already had a one-person show would put their show on, and that night it would be raising money for West End Cares. We did bucket collections. Honestly, we didn't stop. People would run away. People were running away from us in the end, going, "Oh no, what are you going to ask me to do now?" And I asked one of the resident directors, I said, "Well, can I have a word with you? Can I have a word with you in my dressing room after the show?" And I hadn't put in, I needed a day off, and I hadn't put it in on the calendar. So I wanted to say, "Do you think I could have a day off?" And I said, "Well, do you think I could have the Wednesday off? I know it's a matinee day." And he went, "Oh, of course you can have the day off." He said, "I thought you were going to ask me to take my clothes off for the full Monty night." He became so terrified of me, like asking me to do things all the time. But they, people generally, they had fun, they loved it, and the theatre profession were amazing, and we've raised a lot of money.
Oh, you should be proud. And I have to say that your sort of fundraising tour de force didn't just stop in London, did it? It came down to Brighton, where I'm based.
Oh, well, and now we've got so I know we've got mutual acquaintances down there. And the fantastic David Raven, he was always doing some fundraising events for all sorts of things in Brighton. And we did. I think we did a night at the Dome, a night at the Theatre Royal, lots of things. Of course, it extended to Brighton because it's a big, active gay community in Brighton. So,
should explain to our listeners that don't know who the legendary David Raven is. He's, of course, I think officially the UK's oldest drag queen, Maisie Trollet. Well into his 80s now and still working, Jill.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think one of the doctors said to him, "Can you just check your birth certificate before you go on stage in stilettos again?"
He is absolutely incredible. I mean, he's incredible, an incredible spirit, an incredible star. Yeah. He's a star. That's how I look on him. He's a star, and
he's always fundraising. So whenever I've been able to support him, and Jay obviously comes down into Brighton, and we've done a lot of things, and it's all been a joy. It's all been fantastic. So if it raises money for, it's more so charities in Brighton, the AIDS-related charities in Brighton, like the Sussex Beacon, and that when we come to Brighton, so it wouldn't go to the West End Cares, but it's the same cause and it's the same thing. So
I'm so glad you mentioned the Sussex Beacon, because obviously David Raven has done a lot of fundraising for the Beacon. He's a very passionate supporter of the Sussex Beacon, and I know yourself. You've also raised a lot of money for the Sussex Beacon. It's a very special place to me personally, because I actually have an office there, believe it or not, because the main fundraising activity for the charity now is the Brighton Half Marathon, which of course they have owned and operated now for over 30 years. And I help them, and the team here, we help them produce that race, because it's now a monster event with over 12,000 runner registrations and 50,000 spectators on the day, and it's one of the biggest races in the national running calendar. It's one of the biggest events in the city. So we actually have an office there, which of course we've not been able to access since the start of the pandemic, because there is a hospital wing and an inpatient unit there that not only at the moment is looking after HIV patients, but also caring for some of the other NHS patients due to the current, coronavirus pandemic. So it's a special place, Jill, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely, and it deserves all the fundraising that can come its way. Quite honestly, it's just marvellous.
I'm going to unapologetically thank on this podcast and mention Tracy and the entire clinical team at the Sussex Beacon, because they do an incredible job, and I'm so honoured and proud to even be associated with them. They are incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah, praise for them indeed.
Jill, I've got a little bit of an announcement. Well, an announcement's not the right word. I've certainly got something I just want to mention to you, because actually, in preparation for this podcast, I actually did have a chat to the executive director of the Sussex Beacon, a wonderful chap called Bill Puddicombe, and I just want to put you on alert that you are going to receive an email from him very soon, because the trustees and Bill and the whole team at the Sussex Beacon would love you to become a patron of the charity.
Oh, that is just that's quite that's
you're
that
speechless.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's truly. I mean, I am quite. Well, I'm honoured by that. I can only say I'm honoured by that. Really, yeah. Wow. Gosh, my whole things are happening so amazingly. It's fantastic.
Well, it's deserved, and
well, anything I can do to help with it, that's what I'll say for that. Yeah. That's incredible.
Oh, that's so good. They're going to be, they're going to be thrilled to sort of reignite that relationship with you. It's going to be so fantastic, and pleased that we can, at some point in the future, we can actually start fundraising again. I just wondered whether you'd got any ideas for future fundraisers when we're out of this pandemic.
Well, I have got an idea for a fundraiser, and I've mentioned it to Russell, and I've already spoken with David Pendlebury, of course, who is not at the moment acting as the chairman, but he's been the chairperson of Theatre Mad for over a decade, and he's worked tirelessly on fundraising. So we had a little chat the other day about, obviously, with all this renewed interest in HIV and AIDS, doing a big fundraising night in the West End when we can come out of lockdown. I do think we need to be out of lockdown to get the vibe and to get it happening.
But I'm sure I've got no doubt with your passion and energy and contacts, and if Russell T Davies is behind it as well, I'm sure it's going to happen, Jill. I've got no doubt that whenever we come out of this pandemic, we'll be learning about this fundraiser, and the tickets will be snapped up.
Well,
I'm sure
it's all there now, isn't it? So I'm fired up for that now, because I think we can do it.
Well, listen, I'm going to say it as we're talking. If there's anything I can do to help, whether that's donating a prize or whatever I can do, Jill, I will gladly do. I'm a good auctioneer. If ever that,
it's fantastic! What a lovely thing that is to do an auction. See, now I'm not going to ask you to take your clothes off for the full Monty night like that from the director.
Well, do you know what I do find myself at the age of 52 owning and producing and managing the biggest outdoor gin festival in the UK. So perhaps there's some sort of VIP experience. We've got a very exclusive VIP proposition by invitation only with that gin festival. So perhaps there's some kind of very special experience that we could donate, and that could raise some money for that fundraiser as well.
What we should do is, like, part of the night, do the auction thing as part of the night, and do that, because obviously that's a marvelous prize, and that's already we'll get that going. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, I'd anything I can do to be involved and support it, and I'm in.
Oh, thank you. That's so brilliant. Wow.
I just wanted to, before I kind of move off It's a Sin, and talk about your career, your wider career, because you've had an amazing theatrical career, of course. I just wanted to ask you, it's been a breakout show for many of those young actors involved in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just wondered how they were all coping with it, because even yourself, you've said it's been, you've been on a roller coaster. I just wondered how all these young stars like Lydia and Callum and Nathaniel, how they're all coping with this.
Well, Lydia, I see, because a couple of times we've done an interview on Zoom, and so we've spoken together, and she's going, wow, it's all amazing. And, you know, so she's loving it. She's really, really enjoying it, and she's coping fantastically. And I think Ollie, he's used to a bit of adoration because he's got his years and years fans and they already adore him. So I'm sure he's got it all in his stride. I know that Callum is just literally winning hearts all over the place and he's having such a ball. So, and Amari and they, you know, they've all got such amazing personalities that they've jumped on it, I think, and they're enjoying it hugely. But we're all saying, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, I've been watching everyone's social media, you know, their Instagrams, and sort of from the first episode, you know, it's just gone crazy for them. So it is wonderful. And would I be right in saying that they genuinely became very good friends during the filming?
I believe that from what I see of them, they loved each other. I mean, every time I looked at them, they were laughing. They were, you know, hugging each other. That's in the days when we could, because it was filmed like more than a year ago now. And so they really bonded. And I think you can tell that. I think they've created something quite magical between them, but it was very real. So yeah, they are. And then when it came to the emotional stuff, they really felt it. And he had such a huge round of applause at the end of his last. I was lucky to be there, actually, Richie, when Richie was doing his last shot, when Ollie was filming his last shot, and then that was the end for him, and it's a wrap, thank you, and that's his last scene. He had such a cheer. Everybody adored him. They just loved him. So he was a big sort of heart in the middle of it all as well.
Now, listen, I want to, before I let you go, I really want to talk about, you know, the other things that have happened in your career, and particularly around theatre. And when I was doing my reading and my research, I thought to myself, well, it would be quicker and easier to just list the shows that you haven't been in, you know, in terms of your career. And I just wondered, I mean, you've done lots and lots of, you know, musical theatre, West End credits, drama, concert performances. I'm very interested to find out, you know, what are your favourite roles, the roles you've played so far, which have been your favourite?
Okay, so definitely Madame Thénardier. Definitely, because definitely Les Miserables, because before I got into Les Miserables, I so loved it. So that was a real sort of joy for me. And I did play Miss Mazeppa. I don't know if you know the music. Yeah, I'm sure you know the musical Gypsy, but I don't know if all your viewers would know it. And so I did play Miss Mazeppa, and I learned to play the trumpet for that, and that was a huge laugh. It's a brilliant show anyway, and it's one of the
great show.
So those are the roles that I think I've probably really enjoyed. But you know what, I love musical theatre, and I love it all. I just love all that, and I love the whole thing of musical theatre. I've been a fan of that since I was a child. So Godspell, I saw Godspell at my local theatre and just fell in love with it. So yeah, I think if you're a performer as well, you love what you're doing at the time. So you know that it's all been brilliant.
We're big fans of musical theatre here, Jill. In fact, Jack, who is obviously controlling the tech from my side, he's glazing over as we start talking musical theatre now. He's very excited. I just wondered, because I know this happens, and it certainly happened to me, what the funniest thing what's the funniest thing that has happened on stage for you?
Well, oh gosh, I mean, some things you can't even speak about. Oh, but I can tell you the weirdest thing. If I can tell you the strangest thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
I was on stage in Les Miserables, probably a little bit funny as well, as it turned out all right. But I was doing Les Miserables, and we have all these beggar costumes. And part of my skirt, which was all sort of frayed at the edges, got caught into the mechanism under the barricade. Because we were all in Paris, you know, we were calling, look down, the beggars at your feet and all that. And my costume was caught into it. And the barricade came down, but it was pulling me with it. So I was being pulled underneath the barricade, and I thought, oh, my costume will rip, but it didn't. And it pulled me further and further and further underneath it. And I thought, oh, it's going to kill me. And I thought, it's coming down. I thought, well, it might just break my legs. I was honestly thinking that. I was thinking, if it just breaks my legs, I'll be okay. Anyway, it came to its natural stop. And this lovely actor called Tom Magdish, he realised that I was stuck and he pulled me out from under it. And I sang my line. I sang, look down, as I came out, got my line out, and then they took me off into the wings, and I literally had, all that was left was a tiny, like a little tank top. All my costume was stuffed into the barricade. So, a bit funny, but a bit scary as well.
Oh, scary, yeah.
It was a bit scary, but honestly. But they thought in the beginning that I was just acting really well because I was screaming and shouting, but so was everyone because that was the scene.
Are you a corpser, Jill, like me? I'm a corpser.
I got told off very early on in my career by John Nathan Turner, who was the producer of the Doctor Who panto, and I was on stage with an actress called Mary Tam, and some boys were shouting out from the audience. It was pantomime. She laughed, and I thought, well, that's okay. She's laughing, so I laughed. And I was 23 at the time, and I went back to my dressing room, and I got a knock on the door in the interval, and I got John Nathan Turner saying, "Ooh. Don't do that again.
Don't do that again."
Serious voice. And so I'm not a corpser. I have corpse, of course I have, but I don't try to do that laughy thing because it comes back to me, the knock on the door, and
yes.
I felt the fear of the wrath of the director, and so yeah. But I know, sometimes you just can't help it. But I never set up anything to try to make people corpse.
I discovered another link between you and I, actually, when I was reading about your career, because I was officially the last ever agent and manager to the actress Dora Bryan. And of course, Dora, in terms of her West End career, is really widely regarded as the sort of quintessentially British version of Dolly Levi from the hit Jerry Herman musical Hello, Dolly.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that you did a very special concert performance of that show, didn't you?
Oh, it was fantastic. It could not have been a more exciting evening because it was with Carol Channing and Chita Rivera.
Wow.
And in fact, Jay was the MD of it, or one of the MDs. It was a massive night, and the number Hello, Dolly with Carol Channing at the end was absolutely a bit of a theatre experience, and they threw everything at it. There was marching bands, there was all kinds of things happening. So it was an incredible night to be part of.
I mean, two theatrical icons and legends, aren't they? I mean, Carol Channing.
Absolutely. I mean, Carol Channing, she wasn't young then, and she's just she and it's a while back. She was incredible, and she came with the wig and the everything. Just she looked $1 million every time she came into a rehearsal. And Chita Rivera was, she was extraordinary.
I should also mention with the Brighton link as well, because a very, very close friend of mine, Tim Slater, who for many, many, many years was the Theatre Royal manager here in Brighton. He was the theatre manager at the Theatre Royal. He's asked me to say hello to you because, in fact, you did panto there, didn't you, with Colin Baker and Wendy Richards?
Yes, I did. And that was it was a great laugh. And what a gorgeous theatre that is, though. It's a lovely theatre. And we did have fun. Yeah, it was a nice memory, that is. Because of course Wendy's no longer with us. But.
No, and of course you had the wonderful Carol Kay in the cast as well, who was a dear friend of mine. Yeah. Oh, she was
fantastic. Yeah, it was lovely. So very happy memories of all that.
It's a lovely theatre to play. I did panto there with Julian Clary, actually, Cinderella, which was his very first panto.
Wow! He takes panto by storm now.
He is Mr. Panto now, isn't he? Exactly. Mr. Palladium and Mr. Panto.
Very funny. Oh God, he's very fun.
No, it's is it? I mean, is panto something you do again, Jill?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had great fun doing pantomime. Of course, when you recently, I've been touring with our company more so, and we've been quite a bit out of the country. We've travelled a lot doing shows, concert performances of musicals. We also did the Theatre Royal Brighton with the West Enders. That's the company that I'm part of. But never say never for anything in this business, because obviously, I loved doing panto. I'm not going to get Principal Boy now, am I? No, because that's I used to do Principal Boy a lot, but you never know which good fairy.
You get the great character parts now, Jill.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I did ping your lovely agent Michael, who I've known for years, of course. I did ping him an email this morning where I literally just said, Michael, just so you know, I do produce the main pantomime in Brighton, which is transferring to a very, very, very big venue in 2021, and there's definitely a part for Jill Nalder. Definitely. So I have pinged him that email.
I'm going to have a word with him. He hasn't told me that.
No, he actually came back to me and said, "Well, let's have a chat once you've done the podcast. Let's have a chat. I'm going to give him a call when we finish this podcast." But yeah. So I did ping him that email, Jill.
I love you for that.
You mentioned, and I certainly want to mention it, this group called the West Enders, which you are one of the co-founders of. I just wanted to know about that. Tell me about the West Enders.
Oh, so we've been together now. 15 years we've been putting on shows, and we met in Les Miserables, but the group of us that set it up, and Jay, who wasn't in Les Miserables at the time, but obviously he's just such a brilliant musical director, and we're all friends. Again, it's a friendship thing. We put the shows together. We decided to do a musical theatre concert evening. That's what the show is about, and we do all the favourite musicals. There's six of us, 6 singers. There's a live musicians and all of that, and that's what we do. So, and we've had so many brilliant experiences. We've toured this country, we've toured Europe, we've done concerts on the cruise ships, which is every time we get a cruise, it's a joy, because we go off for 2 weeks or a week sometimes. One time it was even 3 days or something. Do the concert, go somewhere, fantastic. And so we've done some huge concert halls. We've done people's back kitchens. We've done everything that you do. We've changed in laundries. We've changed on trains. It's taken us the gamut of show business, from the smallest to the largest arenas. We've played some huge arenas, and when you're in Europe, everything's staged very differently. So you'll find yourself in this massive. You can only say arena, which we wouldn't be the sort of show that you do that there, but you share the stage with other people, and you get put on as part of an evening, and it's just been brilliant. And we're still all speaking. We still love each other. We've made 3 albums. We've had a ball. One of our best things was one of our most exciting trips. We were going up the Amazon on a ship, doing our concert, literally sailing into Manaus. So we've had amazing experiences through it, and all it was an idea in our dressing room in Les Miserables. What shall we do? What should we try and put something together to create some work for ourselves? And it grew and grew. So
yeah, and I should say, when this entire pandemic ends and we can go back to the joy of live performance again, if people want to book the West Enders, they just go to the website, don't they? It's thewestenders.com.
Yes, you're saying that. I love you for that as well. Not only have you got me a panto, you get West Enders.
So yeah, they just go to the website, which is thewestenders.com.
Yeah, we'll hopefully be doing shows as soon as we possibly can.
I was listening to your promo on there this morning, and just wonderful to hear that music again.
Well, it's music we all love. Yeah, everybody loves it. Those that love musicals will love it, of course. I mean, not everybody's favourite, but it's ours.
Jill, I've got a couple of final sort of closing questions for you, which I wanted to ask. The first one is somewhat open-ended, but I just wondered what the future holds for you.
Well, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said, hopefully we're going to be getting back to doing some shows and some gigs. But, I've no idea now what the future holds. I just hope it holds more work and honestly, everybody just stays healthy and we can get out there and perform, because I do love live theatre, and it's a little bit of a drug, isn't it? Once you've done it, you want to keep doing it. So, yeah, and hopefully some good will come out of all of this, and I can do some, fundraising and really hope some, awareness. And I'm up for anything like that, because, anything that I can do that helps, the cause, that cause and other causes. And, let's hope there's some force for good out there.
I would also add to that. I will chip in with my view, my professional view, Jill, that you've also proved that you're a terrific screen actress. So, could there be future screen roles for you too?
Oh, anything would be a joy, wouldn't it? Of course, I'd love it. Of course, I'd love it. And yeah, it's all about auditioning and getting the auditions. So.
And do you mind me asking you what your dream role would be, in the future?
In the theatre, I'd probably like to. I love Sweeney Todd. I love doing as Stephen Sondheim, Sweeney Todd. So maybe Mrs. Lovett, or maybe Mama Morton in Chicago, or something like that.
That would be great. I could see you in both of those roles.
Well, hopefully, I'm kind of, that's the sort of role I'd be going up for. So, yeah, maybe something like that would be fun.
And on screen, TV screen.
Oh my word! On screen, do you know the series that they're filming, the Dark Materials trilogy? That's my favourite book of all times, and I've been looking at that, watching it, thinking, I'd love to be in the Dark Materials trilogy. I don't know if you've been watching it, but if you've read the books, they're amazing.
So if the producer is listening now,
yeah, I'll play a witch or anything. It's
Jill's putting that out there. I suspect that, going, I suppose, back to the beginning of the interview and back to the beginning of your story, I suspect, and this gives me a warm heart, that everything you did during that period that has been you recounted in It's a Sin, and the fundraising you did, and the care that you administered on people in hospital and friends who'd got the disease. I'd just like to think that that you're going to get your reward now. That would be a wonderful thing for me to think that this is going to have some really wonderful positive outcome for you personally.
Oh, well, it's so lovely of you to say that, but you don't even think of that as in terms of a reward. I have to say that's just, but what is happening to me now and what is happening to the others is, it's a great reward for the show itself, for the series, because everyone works hard with that.
No, I totally understand. Well, we've come towards the end of the interview, but as you know, Jill, there is a feature on this podcast which Jack has termed Through the Green Door. We like to take our guests through the green door, and the idea is very simple, is that I'm an avid reader like you are. I read a lot, and I love a thriller. I'm a real fan of a thriller, and I just thought that I would start a story and let my lovely, special, wonderful, talented, creative guests continue it. So what's actually happened is you are my second guest. My first guest was none other than the Olympic gold medalist Sally Gunnell, and she's contributed brilliantly to this story. So I thought what I would do is read the story so far. So I'll read the couple of paragraphs that I've written, then the paragraph that Sally has written, and then I'm hoping, Jill, in true theatrical style, you'll continue the story.
I've got it.
Brilliant. Okay, are you ready? I'm
yes.
Just getting into my actor theatrical mode.
Go for it.
I'm going to become all theatrical and dramatic. So here goes, the green door. As Henry would soon discover, the old manor held many dark secrets within its crumbling walls. The imposing house and surrounding estate had been in the Osborne family for over 200 years, and as the eldest son, he would soon inherit it. The green door, situated at the top of the house on the 3rd floor, had always remained locked as far as he could remember. The children were strictly forbidden to venture up to this attic floor, but it had always proved too tempting to explore. Henry discovered the key to the green door quite by accident when he was searching for his wallet in the old orangery. Unknowingly, he had passed it so many times over the years, and yet there it was directly in front of him. The soon-to-be heir to the family pile knew instinctively which room it belonged to. And now we move on to Sally Gunnell's paragraph. Sliding the key and wallet into his suit inside pocket, Henry made his way to his father's wake. He needed to excuse himself so he could finally see what secrets were so bad they had to remain locked behind this old green door. But it wasn't going to be easy. Many people had turned out to pay their respects, but Henry suspected it was mostly so they could have a nosy around the big house. Henry was sensitive to other people's feelings, something his father had lacked, which would make this job even more challenging. Reaching the main hall, Henry took a deep breath.
He walked over to a tall, dark-haired and gothic-looking woman, his sister Bella. She was holding hands with her equally imposing lover, Donna. He greeted them and mumbled his rather lame excuse about a headache. In her icy glare, he could feel his siblings' deep-rooted resentment. Toddy, his brother and the baby of the family, was as usual drinking whiskey and entertaining a crowd. Henry passed him by, ignored him, and walked briskly towards the stairs. His heart was racing now. Such was his excitement, the key seemed to be burning a hole in his pocket. He began climbing the stairs. 1st floor, 2nd floor. Breathless, he arrived at the 3rd floor. There it was, the attic, the green door. Weirdly, a fleeting sense of foreboding clutched at his heart. And just then, he heard footsteps on the wooden stairs, stilettos, hushed voices. Shit! Had Bella and Donna followed him? He tried frantically to turn the key in the lock, too stiff. He turned around. A look of horror crossed his face.
That is so incredible. You need to write a book, Jill. That was just tremendous. What did you think, Jack?
I'm just in awe of you, Jill. I'm in awe.
Stop it now, Jack.
I'm on my knees. I'm bowing to you.
Jill, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. And it's been a great episode. I've loved talking to you. And we've never met in person, but I have a feeling that we will do, I'm sure, once this pandemic is over. I'll zip up to London and I'll take you for a cheeky lunch and a few drinks and
I'm looking forward to it already.
Continue this conversation, and of course any help I can give you with your fundraising, you have my full support. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been lovely, thank you.
Do you feel like you've been schmoozed, Jill?
Oh, I definitely feel like I've been schmoozed big time.
That was the delightful Jill Nalder, who I could have happily have talked to all day. I'm David Hill. This has been Schmoozing, and please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe if you've enjoyed today's episode. If you're feeling really perky, you could even give us a mention on social media with the hashtag Schmoozing. Next week, I will be talking to my dear friend and world record holder, Mr. Neil Lawton. And until then, stay safe, stay positive, and stay with me for more celebrity schmoozing next week.